Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the mid-year champions report on the WBC, the World Boxing Council. That's the green belt, probably the most recognizable world title that is out there. We're going to cover every belt from 122 all the way to heavyweight, 12 different divisions. Let you know what's going on, at the halfway point, what the champions have done so far and what is going to go on with those titles as we move forward into the remainder of the year. Excuse me. So we're going to jump right in. Let's start with the 122-pound super bantamweight division. The champion there is the undefeated unified champ, Stephen Fulton Jr. He entered the year as the WBC and WBO champion. He captured the WBC title back in November of last year when he unified titles against Brandon Figueroa with a hard-fought 12-round majority decision and a Fight of the Year candidate. He waited around until June and then made a mandatory defense of both his belts against former unified champ Daniel Roman, and he really just worked Daniel Roman, outboxed him, outclassed him, convincing 12-round unanimous decision. And now moving forward, the big want that everybody wants to see, the big fight, is an undisputed title fight with undefeated IBF WBA champion Marajan Akhmadaliev, better known as MJ. A lot of people want to see this fight, myself included. It's the biggest fight to make at 122 right now. Eddie Hearn of Matchroom, and that's MJ's promoter, came out and said that there is nothing standing in the way of making this fight. So the only thing that could stop it is the networks and the promotions. And MJ's promoted by Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, and he fights on DAZN. And Stephen Fulton Jr. is promoted by Al Heyman and the PBC, and he fights on Showtime. So going to be interesting to see if they can work out a deal. I'm about 50-50 right now that they can, but I'm not going to hold my breath. If the fight with MJ for undisputed does not happen, I believe Stephen Fulton will fight former two-division champ Luis Nery next. So we'll see what goes down, but I believe that's going to be the fight because Nery was good to go if Daniel Roman passed on the June fight. So they're both with the PBC. It's an easy fight to make, and if that fight happens, I think Stephen Fulton takes a decision from Luis Nery. So we'll see what goes down at 122. Next up at 126 pounds featherweight, the champion there is the undefeated Mark Magsayo. He did not enter the year as champion. Gary Russell Jr. entered the year as champ, and Magsayo stopped Russell's nearly 5-year reign as champ when he scored a hard-fought 12-round majority decision win over Gary Russell. Russell did have an injured arm in that fight, an injured shoulder, so it hampered him from being able to throw his, I believe it was his right hand, so he fought primarily with his left. He lost a lot of the early rounds, but really closed the gap late in the fight, lost a close decision. Magsayo walked away with the title, though. And then, and now Magsayo actually, this Saturday, is going to be making a mandatory defense of his title against undefeated former 122-pound champion Ray Vargas. Big time fight right there. I personally feel Vargas is going to beat Magsayo and become the new champion. Whatever happens, the winner is locked in, is almost for sure going to fight the winner of the co-feature, which is Brandon Figueroa and Carlos Castro, which could steal the show and is a potential Fight of the Year candidate. I can't wait to see it, and I think that fight might come off before the end of the year. So right now, there's one of 4 guys that could be champion by the end of the year between Magsayo and Vargas, or Figueroa and Carlos Castro. Personally, I think it's going to be Vargas beating Magsayo and Figueroa beating Castro, and then you got a big fight between Figueroa and Vargas at the end of the year. A lot of punches going to be thrown in that one. Should be interesting, should be fun. Make sure you pay attention to featherweight in the WBC. 130 super featherweight. The champion there is the undefeated unified champ Shakur Stevenson. Stevenson Stevenson holds both the WBC and WBO titles. He did not enter the year as a WBC champion. In April, he attempted to unify belts against undefeated Oscar Valdez, and he dominated Oscar Valdez over 12 rounds for a very convincing unanimous decision as he unified belts and pretty much declared himself the top dog at 130 pounds with that win. Now, he has his next fight scheduled September 23rd. He is going to take on former world title challenger, former Olympian, Robson Conceição. This is a very good chess match that we're going to see on September 23rd on ESPN. Make sure you check it out. I got Stevenson winning a decision here, but Conceição is nobody to sleep on. Last September, he fought Oscar Valdez and probably should have got the decision there, but he got robbed and lost the controversial decision. Now, we're going to see if how good Shakur Stevenson is following the win over Valdez. Can't wait to see it Saturday, September 23rd, Stevenson and Conceição. I think it's going to be Stevenson, and I don't think he fights again for the remainder of 2022. 135. The champion there is the undefeated and undisputed champion, Devin Haney. Haney entered the year as the WBC champion, but in June, the WBC champion, a title he was basically gifted in 2019 when Lomachenko decided to not defend the title against him and move up and fight Teofimo Lopez instead. So Haney went into this fight went into the fight with George Kambosos Jr. in June for the undisputed title, as Kambosos held the other 3 belts. Haney went over to Australia and he went in there and dominated George Kambosos, scoring a one-sided 12-round decision as he became the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. Big time win. Going forward, Haney has a mandatory rematch clause against George Kambosos. They are going to fight again probably November, December, which will lead to a third fight on the ESPN contract, on the top rank contract that he signed, that'll see him fight likely Vasily Lomachenko if he beats Kambosos at the towards the end of the year, and I think he will. I think he's going to beat Kambosos again and retain the undisputed title. So a lot of things coming for Devin Haney. 140 junior welterweight. The title is actually currently vacant. Josh Taylor entered the year as the undefeated and undisputed champion. In February, he made a WBO mandatory defense against undefeated Jack Catterall and ended up walking away with a very close, controversial split decision win over Catterall, a fight that a lot of people thought he lost. He took a knockdown in that fight and still escaped with a 12-round split decision. So, all that being said, Taylor was contemplating moving up to welterweight, but he got a lot of backlash for the gift decision that he received. So over the last couple months, he gave up his WBA title instead of making a mandatory against Albert Puello. Then he was going to fight his WBC mandatory Jose Cepeda and then Catterall after that, but he decided to not fight Cepeda. He sent a letter to the WBC that he was relinquishing the title, and now the belt is vacant. So the WBC, just in the past week, has ordered #1 contender Jose Cepeda to rematch former unified champ Jose Ramirez for the vacant championship. So that bout will take place on ESPN later on this year, and it's tough for me to pick. It's a good fight. Ramirez took the first one by a very close majority decision in his hometown. I personally feel it's Jose Cepeda's time, and I think he's going to win a hard-fought decision over Ramirez, but I really think it could go either way. So make sure you're paying attention for that fight to happen. Cepeda versus Ramirez for the vacant title at 140. 147. The champion there is the unified champ, Errol Spence Jr. He entered the year as a WBC and IBF unified champ. He won the WBC title in 2019 when he unified belts and defeated Sean Porter by a split decision. In April of this year, he attempted to unify titles again against Yordenis Ugas, and he dominated Ugas over 10 rounds, busting him up, beating him up to where Ugas's face was bloodied and swollen, and the referee stopped the fight as Spence unified and it now has 3 of the 4 welterweight titles. Moving forward, for all intents and purposes, it looks like Spence and Terrence Crawford, the undefeated WBO champion, are going to unify for undisputed at welterweight. A mega fight. I hope it happens. It looks like it's going to happen. I haven't heard anything that says it's not still moving forward. It should get finalized any day now, and I'm hoping it does for October. And if that happens, I got Terrence Crawford capturing the WBC and the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. So we'll see what goes down. If it happens in October, there's a chance he could vacate belts, and we could have another WBC title fight before the end of the year between top contenders. So we just got to wait and see and go from there. But I think Crawford will become your next WBC welterweight champion later on this year. 154 super welterweight. The champion there is the undisputed champion, Jermell Charlo. Charlo entered the year as a WBC, WBA, and IBF champion. He captured the WBC title his second time back in December of 2019, I believe, when he stopped Tony Harrison in their rematch. From there in 2020, he unified the WBA and IBF belts. And this year, in May, he attempted to unify titles again in a rematch against undefeated Brian Castano. They fought in July of last year, 2021, a fight that ended in a controversial a controversial draw in a fight that a lot of people felt Castano won, myself included. This time around, Charlo left no doubt. He went out there, stopped Castano in the 10th round of a fight where he was getting out punched, but he was landing the harder, better punches, and he finished him off in the 10th round, left no doubt, and is now the undisputed super welterweight champion of the world. Big time win right there. Going forward, it looks like he's going to be defending against undefeated Tim Tszyu, who's the WBO's mandatory #1 contender. It doesn't look like any of the other governing bodies are going to strip him as of yet, especially the WBC, but the WBC could strip him and award interim champion Sebastian Fundora the title, and then Fundora would fight, most likely, in my opinion, fight Tony Harrison. But we'll see what goes down. At least for now, he's still the undisputed champion, Charlo, and he's likely fighting Tim Tszyu next. 160 middleweight. The champion there is the undefeated Jermell Charlo. Charlo entered the year as the champion, a title he won, I believe, back in I can't remember when he was upgraded to champ. I want to say it was 2019. He did not defend the title at all. He was supposed to fight Maciej Sulecki in June. An injury caused that fight to be postponed. As of right now, it looks like that fight's still going to happen, but we haven't really heard anything. It's been about a month now. I'm expecting him to probably fight Sulecki, and that's going to be his only fight this year. He'll probably win the fight by stoppage in the later rounds or a decision and retain the WBC belt and move forward. So we'll see. 168, the champion there is the undisputed champion, Saul Canelo Alvarez. Alvarez entered the year as the WBC and undisputed super middleweight champ. He originally captured the WBC title back in December of 2020 when he defeated Callum Smith to capture both the WBA and the vacant WBC belt. He later on unified against Billy Joe Saunders for the WBO, and then last November became undisputed when he defeated Caleb Plant. So he did not defend his WBC or undisputed super middleweight title in the first half of the year, as he moved up to 175 and attempted to win a title there. He came up short. Now he's moving back down to 168. September 17th on DAZN pay-per-view, he will do it a third time and defend his undisputed title against Triple G Gennady Golovkin. I think he's going to beat Triple G in that fight, stop him in the late rounds, or get a one-sided or convincing decision. And then from there, I believe he will, I think there's a chance he could fight John Ryder in December before he probably moves back up to 175 and goes after Bivol next year. But that's what could happen. But either way, I think Canelo is going to end the year as the WBC and undisputed champion still. 175 light heavyweight. The champion there is the undefeated and unified champion, Arthur Beterbiev. He entered the year as a WBC and IBF unified champ. He originally captured the WBC title in October of 2019 when he was already the IBF champ and he unified belts and stopped Alexander Votzik. From there, he's made multiple defenses, but in the first half of this year in June, he attempted to unify belts again against Joe Smith Jr., and he ran right over Joe Smith, knocking him out in just 2 rounds as he improved to 18-0 with 18 knockouts and now holds 3 of the 4 light heavyweight titles at 175. For those of you who want undisputed with Dimitri Bivol, not going to happen next, as he's almost for sure going to be making a WBO mandatory defense against former world title challenger Anthony Yarde. That's going to be a very good fight right there, or a good matchup at least. I think he beats Yarde and stops him, but I wouldn't be surprised if Yarde makes it very interesting or if Yarde pulled off the upset. But I think Beterbiev will beat him, retain his 3 belts, and walk out of 2022 still champion, but we'll see. Next, cruiserweight, 200 pounds. The champion there is Ilunga Makabu. Makabu entered the year as champion, a title he captured back in January of 2020 when he defeated Michel Cieslak by a close, controversial, unanimous decision. He made a couple defenses in between, actually 1 defense, and this year in January, he made a mandatory defense against Biso Mashunu in a rematch from a 2015 bout or 16 bout where he knocked Mashunu out. This time around, it was close and it was controversial, but Makabu walked away with a split decision win in a fight that most people felt that he lost. I didn't see it personally, but he walked away with the world title, and now it's up in the air on what's going to happen. There's talks about him fighting the English guy, Richard Rickerpour or something like that, or he could be making a mandatory defense against Alexei Papin in a rematch from their 2018 bout or 2019 bout in which Makabu took a very close majority decision. Not quite sure what's going to happen for Makabu. Hopefully we hear something soon and he gets back in the ring, but I wouldn't be surprised if he lost his title before the end of the year. And finally, the WBC heavyweight title is the last division and last title to look at. Tyson Fury is the undefeated and reigning champion. He entered the year as champ, a title that he won in February of 2020 when he knocked out Deontay Wilder. He defeated Wilder in their 3rd fight last year, and in April of this year, he took on mandatory challenger and interim champion Dillian White. He made what looked like easy work of Dillian White, dominating him, scoring a 6-round TKO victory impressively to retain his title. He talked about retirement a lot right after that, but he has not made it official because I believe he's waiting around for the winner of Usyk and Joshua 2, who fight for the other 3 titles in August. And I think Fury wants to make a fight with the winner of that for undisputed and then right off into the sunset if he's victorious. I personally feel Joshua's going to win that fight, but I do think it could go either way. And if the winner comes out unscathed, he might be able to get that fight off before the end of the year, but I doubt it. I think it's probably more likely early next year when that fight pops off, but you never know. But Tyson Fury, still the undefeated WBC champion for now. And that's it. That's the mid-year champions report on the WBC, the World Boxing Council, and that's what I got. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.